Hello, everyone. This is my movie. This is my movie. This is a video talking about the Monsters, the remake movie made by Rob Zombie. It was originally on that came out on Netflix about 2 months ago. By the time I'm recording this video, this is another very late review of that movie. Yeah. So then it says Christmas, like talking about nothing says Christmas, like talking about shit that came out in October for Halloween. Whatever. Um yeah, I would start this off by saying this is going to be spoilers. At this point, it's like if you didn't see that movie by this point, then you're obviously not going to watch it, so whatever. And if you do want to see it, you've had 2 months to watch it before we're watching this video. To say there's probably no one watching this video. I don't get very many views. And if you've seen one of my videos, you know that. Okay, but getting back to what coming to talk about. Start this off by saying basically what everybody else thought about that trailer that came out. I think in September, I think the trailer dropped. Yeah, September. I think the trailer dropped in September. And yeah, like people watched that and were like, I don't know, I don't feel very confident. I don't feel very confident about this movie coming out, man. It's like, no. Yeah, I will add that I felt the same way everyone else did. When that when that trailer came out and I saw it was Rob Zombie, I originally thought like, oh, okay, it's gonna be the Monsters as a horror movie because he makes horror movies. I'm like, and sure, yeah, there's a lot of like funny things. He'll say something funny every now and again in his movies. He'll say something funny every once in a while, like actually, it's probably a couple of things I can't repeat in this video because I can't have YouTube doing anything to my channel. Yeah, uh, the joke in Devil's Rejects, the first thing that comes to mind when she's like when Baby was doing the thing, was doing that rhyme, and she was like dancing, and he asked her like, "You think?" He's like, "Hey, you thinking are you over there thinking in pure thoughts about my sister?" And he's like, "No." Like, why not? Yeah, we all laughed in the theater when we heard that. I guess nowadays, and now maybe like not so much now. Um, but yeah, we all laughed when we heard that back then, and that joke won't fly now. This is why I'm not repeating it. Um, but yeah, he can do jokes. He can do a horror movie and do jokes, and they'll be funny. But can Rob Zombie do a comedy? Um, yeah, maybe. They were all like, as like a lot of people were like, I don't know if Rob Zombie can do a comedy. There were people that were like, this is gonna suck. Judging by the trailer, it was like, I'll give it a shot because I'm a fan of the Munsters. I'll give it a shot. Like I'll give it a shot because I'm a fan of the Munsters. I will, but the trailer is not winning me over right now. It's like, boy, that. But yeah, the trailer was something. It was like, it was rough. There were audio issues in the trailer. People were like, the text that he's using in this trailer doesn't look, it looks weird, like it's not finished maybe. Now I will say that the audio problem that people were pointing out from the trailer, excuse me, did get fixed. Like when the movie came out, like that part in the trailer that had the weird echo and shit was fixed by the time the movie came out. So that was like we were all kind of judging it kind of prematurely there. Excuse me, but then some of the jokes that were in the trailer were like, but then getting on, it's good, but the trailer left a lot to be desired. The movie, however, was a little fun. Was funny in a couple of different places. There was kind of funny in a couple of different places. There's a joke that they set up in the beginning that they pay off at the end. That was actually like, okay, that's funny. Like, I didn't, and I did not catch that when I saw the movie. I had to be told, basically, by watching someone else's review that pointed that out, that joke, that they set up a joke at the beginning of the movie and it paid off at the end. I was like, oh, okay. Okay, let's talk about the cast. I can't remember anybody's name that was in this movie. Sherry Moon Zombie played Lily in this movie. She did okay. She was doing this voice the whole time. It was kind of weird. It was like it's weird. Not weird, but it was like, it's kind of weird what she's doing, like a voice. Like, it was weird. It was kind of weird, and it was like, I don't know about the voice she's doing, because in the original, no one did voices like that in the original. And it was the same thing with the guy playing Herman Munster. Like, he's playing Herman, but he's doing a voice. And it was like, but with him, I can kind of understand him doing a voice, because the original actor's voice from the original show, it's like, you listen to that guy talk, it's like, you can't replicate that. You can't replicate what he's doing. You can't replicate his voice. So your best bet is to probably do something original with the voice, because you can't replicate what he's doing with his voice. it's yeah. Well, he wasn't doing anything with the voice. It was like his voice. It was his actual voice. You know, you can't. You'd be just doing a horrible impression of him. So it's like, you know, so it's like, just do something different. Do something different with Herman's voice. That's it. The guy playing Grandpa was actually pretty good. Kind of, as far as I was aware, he kind of sounded like the original guy, because it felt like it was him. It felt like it was his voice. That was pretty good. We got a character named Lester, who I believe was, at first I thought Lester was Lily's brother. I'm not entirely sure if that was the case with him, how he was related to them, but I think maybe, I don't know. His grandpa's his ex-wife is a gypsy, and she's pissed off at him, and she's trying to get the castle. That's like part of the plot. She recruits Lester into doing, and then her and Lester are in cahoots to get the castle so they can do something with it. And it's basically, this movie is basically an origin story. More about we got Igor, who works with Grandpa in the castle, just doing stuff. Herman, we got Herman's creator, who's kind of a Dr. Frankenstein-y type of guy, who he's the one that puts Herman. He's the one that digs up all the different body parts to make Herman. Him and his assistant. I do not remember the name of his assistant, but it probably had a name. He was played by Jorge Garcia. If anybody who watched Lost, Jorge Garcia. He was the fat guy on the island in Lost. Hurley. His name was Hurley. That character's name was Hurley. He then later joined Daniel Day Kim on Hawaii Five-0 after Lost got canceled. But he wasn't there. He wasn't on Hawaii Five-0 in the first season of that show. I think he joined the cast after Chi McBride joined the cast of that show. And it was like, that was pretty cool. I thought that was like pretty cool. Like, there's like two people from Lost, a show they filmed in Hawaii, and they're still in Hawaii doing another show. I thought that was great. Yeah, because Daniel Day Kim said he didn't want to leave Hawaii, so he got another job that kept him in Hawaii. Which is why he was on that show. And I guess Jorge Garcia was missing Hawaii, so he's like, hey, I'm gonna go join Daniel over there on Hawaii Five-0. Bye. So I thought that was a good idea. I thought that was cool. They yeah, I don't remember the name of the character, but that's who played him, and he did a good job in this movie. In my opinion, I think that all of the actors in this movie did a very good job with what they were doing. I don't think the script was all there, but you know, like it's weird that the script for this is not awful. Rob Zombie knows how to write. We know that. We know Rob Zombie knows how to write. We know he knows how to direct. It's just like I don't know comedy. I don't think is comedy's not a comedy movie may not be his bread and butter right there. But I do give him respect for attempting to do it, because you don't. I just hit my microphone. Sorry if anybody heard that. You don't know if you can do something until you try it. So, you know, he tried comedy. Maybe doing the monsters wasn't a good place to start, but you know, but you try it. If you want to keep doing it, see what worked, see what didn't work, and then move forward from that. That's the best way to do it if you want to keep doing something. You know, so hopefully if he does do another comedy movie, he will look at this, see what worked, see what didn't, move on, and then go forward from there. Okay, let's get into this. Now let's get into the movie. Let's see. The movie starts out with we're in the lab. Like, it starts off with the lab. No, not the lab. It starts off with the doctor that's creating Herman looking for body parts. Him and his assistant in the graveyard looking for body parts. They go to dig up a body for this like world famous pianist. They're like, yeah, I want his fingers. He's like, I want those fingers. They're good fingers. They're the best. And they dig him up. The grave's empty, and they're like, what the hell? How is this grave empty? So they hear something, and they look up. They go towards the noise. It's the dead guy, the guy that's supposed to be in the grave. He's a zombie. And that's when we get the title screen, the monsters. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And if you think, and I thought about it, again, like 2 months to think about this movie, and it's kind of weird. It's weird that they decided to put the title card right there in front of a zombie that's not in the movie, except for this one scene. They don't knock him out. I don't know if we're supposed to know, or if we're supposed to think that, because he takes the hammer, the doctor takes the hammer and hits him on the head, and he falls over. I don't know if we're supposed to think. Are we supposed to think that he's dead or knocked out? Because he didn't hit him that hard. Like, for a live human being, hitting somebody like that probably would have knocked them out with a hammer. They probably would have got knocked out. A zombie, though, would take that hit and be like, what the hell was that? That's not gonna. You can't knock out a zombie. You're gonna have to kill the zombie. So, I mean, are we supposed to know? Are we supposed to think that the zombie is dead? I don't know. Well, they hit him with the hammer. He falls. They cut his fingers off. They take the fingers back to the lab. We get to the lab. The set for this lab, very good. This was I found out watching other people review this movie. This was pointed out on Hack the Movies that this that the lab they're using was on Universal Studios, I think in the back lot somewhere. That this was a Universal Studios set that they used for the movie. So you get the whole, and then you get the thing where he's putting together Herman. He puts together Herman. They use the lightning, bring him back to life. Again, this was like 2 months ago. I can't remember every single detail of this movie. He might have did the whole he's alive. So Herman is alive, walking around. So the first thing they decide to do, they decide to put him on TV. They're gonna put him on TV, show everybody like, hey, look what I did. I made a person out of dead body parts. Here we go. So he puts him on TV. Oh wait, I'm skipping one thing. The brain. We see Jorge Garcia go get the brain, and there were these brothers who died. They were both dead. One of them was a failed comedian who told bad jokes, and the other brother was like really smart. So Jorge Garcia was supposed to get the smart brain, but instead got the failed comedian's brain, and they put that in Herman. So Herman. So when they bring him back, so when they brought him to life, and they put him on TV, they unbandage him. They unbandage his face, and it's like he's So because he has a failed comedian's brain in his head, he is telling bad jokes, and the doctor's like disappointed because that's not what's supposed to happen. And then you found out Jorge Garcia got the wrong brain. So he's telling bad jokes, except the people like the jokes, so it's working. He's on TV, and Lily sees him. She instantly falls in love with him. Like, instantly falls in love with him. And then and she just got off of a bad date with another vampire who looks like Nosferatu, who I don't remember the name of that character, but he's like but it was a bad date. The date was bad. He was trying to like really impress her, but she wasn't really feeling it. And then here he mentions like, he brings up a picture of a rat, and he mentioned like how much he mentioned like how much he loves his rats. Like he really loves his rats so much. They're like his kids. He loves his rats. Okay, and that's important. That's going to be important later in the movie. And one of the jokes here is that she's like looking around, and she sees these two skeletons sitting in the booth, and she goes, oh, those two must have been waiting here for a really long time. And it's like, yeah, okay, like that kind of works. That kind of works as a joke. If that's your kind of humor, that would work for you because that's kind of funny. And then the her date goes like, looks at it and goes, "Oh, they're dead," and it's like, yeah, you're pointing out the obvious though, there, man. That's not funny. I don't know if that was that. I think that was meant to be funny, but it was like you're pointing out the obvious. That's not funny. Like her, like kind of like looking at it, you see the obvious, but then you don't say like, oh, they're dead. They've been waiting here so long they died. Like you say like, oh, they've been waiting here for a while. It's like that's funny because you're not like you're not explaining it. You're not over explaining it. It's subtle. It's kind of funny. But then having him add on like, oh, they're dead, is like you ruined it. You had it and then you ruined it. You went too far. You ruined it. So that doesn't work. So then after the date, at the beginning, I didn't know that they were going back to his apartment, that he brought Lily back to his apartment. I thought he brought Lily to a nightclub. That's what I thought that was. And then because then he starts like dancing, doing this dance thing, and it's like, and this like techno song that says Disco Vampire. It's like Disco Vampire, and it's like this weird techno beat was playing, and he's doing the dance. At the end of the dance, like confetti goes off, and it's like, okay, so again, I thought that was a nightclub that they were going to. I later and again I found out watching a review of this on Hack the Movies, that like, oh wait a minute, that's his apartment. Oh, he's trying to get laid. Is that what he's doing? Like, oh, and she's like, at the end of that, she's like, no. She's like, no, I'm not having it. She turns and she leaves. And then after that bad date, then she sees Herman on the TV, and then she's like, she falls in love with him. So she she decides that she's gonna find him, so they can start dating. He they get there and he's playing music. He's playing like a song. And it sounds like he's playing punk music. That's what it sounds like, because he's wearing a leather jacket. He's got like a hat on with goggles on it, and a leather jacket with like studs on the lapel and stuff. And he's just playing guitar, or he's like, and he'll make like, and it's like one of those types of songs where it's like music, and then he'll stop playing to say something and then keep playing. It's like one of those types of songs. Sounded all right. The vampire that Lily dated, that Lily went on that date with, he was there wearing sunglasses. They don't interact during this scene, but he's like in the background. It's like the same character. It's the same exact character. He so she's like just falling in love with him, like just more. Lester's there. I think, I'm pretty sure he talks to Herman, but I don't remember about what. She goes, and then Lily is going backstage, not backstage, like in the back area of the club, looking for Herman. She bumps into Lester. I think that's when we get the reveal that Lester and Lily are related to one another, and then he points her in the towards his direction. That's how you get the and then that comes up later in the movie. That will come up later in the movie as well, because Lester uses that to do something shady. they then she goes and meets Herman. They talk a bit, and they're like, "Hey," and then they hit it off, and then she invites him. She invites him to her place, to the castle, so for dinner. And he's like, "Yeah, all right, I'll be there." And so he gets to the castle, wearing a nice outfit. Gets to the castle. Grandpa's like at the top, like yelling down at him, like, "Who are you? I'm Herman. What are you doing here? I'm here to see Lily." Like, I'm be right down. And he comes. He comes from like the top to the door in like 2 seconds. He opens the door, looks at Herman, like sizing him up, like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this guy doing here? And he's like, "You here to see Lily?" He's like, "Yeah!" He's like, "Why are you yelling? I thought you liked it." Like, it's another joke. Like, come in. It's like real hit or miss with these jokes, man. He goes in. So he goes in. They're having a good time. Him and Lily are having a good time. Grandpa is looking at her like he does not want Herman here at all. He doesn't. He's not feeling Herman. Herman's not cool with him. And he's like, and it's like he tells him a joke, and oh boy, he tells him a joke. He starts off telling him like this joke. He's like, "Hey, I got a joke for you." He's like, "All right, how do you keep a grumpy, old, cranky vampire in suspense?" Grandpa's like, "How? I'll tell you later." Yeah, I. It's kind of almost funny how not funny it is, but whatever. And then they go outside and they're like talking, and he's like, "Yeah, my dad. He kind of goes. My dad. He's like getting a feel for people. He kind of goes like straight for the jugular. And he's like, oof." And Harry's like, "Ugh, I hope it doesn't come to that." He's like, "Oh no, I don't mean literally. But do wear high collared shirts while you're getting to know him." I thought that was pretty funny. Because that is something like, yeah, he's a vampire. He'd do that. Um, and they kind of start dating. They're dating. They're getting to know each other. We see. Then one of the scenes, like, we see like Lily's uncle, one of Lily's uncles, or uncle, or what, I don't know, is the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah, the creature from the Black Lagoon's in there. That's one of her uncles. Um, then we get the marriage proposal. He like they're on the date. He turns over. He pulls out the ring. He's like, "Come on, Herman. Herman, you rehearsed this. You can do this." He turns around, asks her to marry him. She says yes. They're getting married. In the meantime, meanwhile, like Lester, we find out Lester is Lester owes the gypsy money. So she gives him, and because he doesn't have the money, she gives him the job of getting the deed to the castle. Get the deed to the count's castle, and I'll wipe, and not that I'll wipe the debt out. Like, like you can like we'll both get money. Like it'll cover your debt, and then we'll both have money because that castle's worth a lot. That castle is worth like a fortune. So you'll get a cut of that. So he gets a cut. So then it's like, so then I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit there. So he's been trying to figure out a way to get the castle. Grandpa, the count, he's not grandpa yet because they don't have a kid yet. So he's not grandpa, not yet. The count, which is what they're calling him in the movie, he doesn't want anything to do with this. He tried to get him involved in a business venture that would involve the castle. He said no. So they're like, okay, we're gonna have to do this another way. So then Lester's at the wedding. He's talking to Herman before Lily comes out, and he's like doing this whole thing, like talking him up. Like he's like, hey man, I pointed Lily in your direction. So if it wasn't for me, this wouldn't be happening right now. Like you wouldn't be getting married to her right now. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, thanks for that, man. Like, yeah. So he's doing this whole thing. He's like talking him up, making him feel like a big man, talking him up. And he's like, hey, I got this idea. Because since you're about to get married to her, what's like you get half of everything. So if you sign this, like you and her be on easy street, man. And he's like, yeah, okay, that sounds good, man. You the man with the plan. You're like, yes, I am. And he signs the paper, and it's like, oh, you don't even know what you did. You don't even know what you did, man. So he got it. They're fucking. So they marry. They get married. They're getting ready to go on the honeymoon. Lester's talking to Herman about the business deal that they're in, and he's like, no, he's like, don't mention that, like trying to keep it a secret, like he kind of knows like he may have done something stupid, but he's not trying, so he's trying to keep it a secret. And he's like, no, and then she mentions like, oh, I hope you don't like get into any business ventures with him because he's a bit shady. He's like, no, of course not, no, I wouldn't have done that. I was like, you already did. So they were in the honeymoon. They were in Paris. There's a thing that I thought was weird coming up later, that they're in Paris. They're from Transylvania. Everybody in Transylvania is a monster. They go to Paris. So we're supposed to believe that this is their first time getting outside of Transylvania, and this is probably their first time seeing humans for the first time. And then they get there, they're kind of like, they don't have any kind of weird reactions to like all the humans in Paris. You know, they're like, oh, they're just like, yeah, this is everybody. Like this is what people in Paris look like in there. But everybody has like a reaction to them. Like they see them, they're like, ah, and they're screaming and they're running. They're like, oh, why are all these people like they're like, oh, why are these people like there must be something weird going on around here or something. Like they don't know. Like they're not aware that they look scary to humans, like which they wouldn't. You know, so that's kind of normal. So that works because like if they spend like the whole, Herman has definitely spent his whole life in Transylvania, so he doesn't know. He's not fully aware what he is or what he looks like. And I guess Lily Lily doesn't either. But Herman and Lily don't have any reaction to the way any of the people in Paris look. they have no weird reactions that like like to how like the humans don't look like monsters. And it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I'm going to get back. I'm gonna get back to this when I get to the end of the movie. And here it's like they're walking around Paris. They're having a great time. They hear about a monster in the sewer, and they're like, "Oh, let's go see it." And they go down there to see the monster in the sewer, to see what's in the sewer. They hear it. Herman goes to get it and brings it back, and it's the dragon. If you remember, if you ever saw the original show, they had a dragon living under the stairs. So this is like where they got the dragon when it was like small. So he's like, so they catch it, they keep it as a pet, and they have it for like the rest of the movie. While they're in Paris, the Count gets the phone call from his ex-wife, the gypsy, who tells him, guess what? Lester got Herman's signature on this contract that says that we own the castle now. So you gotta get out. The castle's mine, and you gotta get out. So they're like, so he's like, no, I don't believe that. And they give him a copy of it, and they're like, Herman, you idiot. So he goes to Paris to talk to Herman. Tell Lily what happened. He gets there. Ooh, excuse me. He gets there, and he's got the wine bottle. He knocks on the door, and he's got the wine bottle like this, like he's gonna hit Herman in the head with it. Herman opens the door. He's like, "Oh, wine!" Takes the bottle and closes the door. It doesn't even realize it. It's like that was the Count. Again, this is like that works. Okay. That worked. That whole thing worked right there. And he opens the door and comes in. He's like, "Oh, hey, Count, how you doing?" "I've been better." And like, it's like, and then Lily comes out. It's like, "Oh, Dad, is there a problem?" He's like, "Yeah, we got a big one. You know what your husband did? He freaking signed a contract that gave away the castle. We don't have anywhere to live. We're out on the street now." And it was like, and then he's like, "Hey," and then she's like, "Herman, is that true?" Yeah, that whole thing. It's a trope, but it's a trope for a reason, I guess. Uh, yeah, and then it's like they have to deal with the fact that they're getting kicked out of the castle. Like, what are we gonna do? Ooh, excuse me. Just ate dinner not too long ago. And so he was like, "Well, what are we gonna do now?" And he's like, "Well," and like, "I don't know." And then this commercial comes on the TV, and there's this guy, long hair, wearing makeup, talks about like, "I'm the most handsome actor in Hollywood, and if you're just as half as handsome as I am, you can be famous here in LA. Come to LA and be famous like me, the most handsome actor in Hollywood." And Herman sees that, it's like, hey, that's something I can do. If that guy can make it in Hollywood, I can make it in Hollywood too, because I'm way more handsome than him. And that joke works. It's a fun, and it's like, at first I'm like, it didn't even register me as a joke. But then again, I saw a review. I saw someone's review, and they said, and that's actually kind of funny, because the actor in that commercial is the same actor that plays Herman. So it's like Herman is looking at himself and saying he's more handsome than himself. So it's like, okay, that kind of works. That does kind of work. And it's like, so he's like, "We're going to LA. Okay, you can come to LA with us, but you gotta leave all your junk here, and that freeloader Igor can't come either. And he's like, and then like Grandpa's like, fine. So, but then Grandpa cooks up a potion that turns Igor into a bat, so that he can come with them to America. And then that's like the show. That's where Igor comes from, because there was a bat named Igor in the original show, and that's where he comes from. Okay, and when like that's actually kind of cool, not bad. They're going to America. They're looking for a house. The realtor. It's Halloween. That's important. It's Halloween, and they're going to the realtor, and the realtor is played by Cassandra Peterson. If anyone knows who Cassandra Peterson is, she's Elvira, and she's dressed up as like a witch. She's got like the makeup and the chin and the nose, the green face, and all that. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that you got Cassandra Peterson, but you didn't have her play Elvira. But then it's like, then you wouldn't have had Cassandra Peterson, you would have had Elvira. So I think that's probably why she's dressed up like a witch. So she opens. So they knock on the door. She opens it, and it's like she sees them, and she's like, ah, and falls out. And they're like, well, I guess we're gonna have to get used to that. And it's like, that's kind of funny. But then it's like, what if it's Halloween? You're dressed up like a witch, and then you see these people, and they later assume that they're in costumes. That's it. That's like, they all later assume that they're in costumes. So it's like, why did you have that reaction to them? If like later you're like, oh, you're dressed up in costumes, like, why even have that reaction in the first place? Like, whatever. Why not just assume that they're in the costumes from the start? You had like this white, it doesn't really make sense. But then she takes him out. She takes him to this house. She takes him to where the house is that she's gonna sell him, and they get confused, and then they think it's like the big looking run-down house that they're trying to sell, that she's trying to sell him, but she's actually trying to sell him the house across the street. And they're looking at this other, like, this house is great. And then she's like, and then that they get confused by that, and then they're like, wait a minute, is she trying to trick us into buying that ugly house over there instead of this good house right here? And then he does the whole, and then it's like, you know what? No, you can't trick me. I wasn't born yesterday. Well, parts of me were born yesterday, but that's neither here nor there. That doesn't work. That's a joke. It doesn't work because the math on that doesn't make sense. Because he's been alive for a while now. Like, parts of you being born yesterday, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, I think it's supposed to be one of those jokes where you're not supposed to think too hard about it, but it's like that you're gonna catch that. You're gonna instantly catch that. Him saying like, some of my parts were born yesterday. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense mathematically. It doesn't make any kind of sense. But it's like, what? But it's like, come on. You're going to catch that. So she's like, you want that house? Okay, you can have it. I can't get rid of it. It's like, no one wants it. I've been trying to get rid of it forever. It's yours. And that's the monster house right there. That's where the house is. That's where the house comes from. So they move in. They're moving their stuff in. Igor's there, and the town is having a block party. They're having like a Halloween block party. Everyone's dressed up in costumes, and they're like, "Hey, this is pretty cool. Like we're getting this is pretty great. The people are cool here, man." It's like they're like the life of the party. They're like the life of the party. They're having a great time. These people that work at a mortuary, like they look at Herman and they're like, "Hey, you're a big dude. You can probably lift some heavy stuff, man. Like we need somebody that can lift like heavier bodies that we can't lift. Like you think you could you think you'd like to do that?" And they're like, he's like, yeah, okay, I can do that. And he gets a job, and it's like, oh, cool. So he has a job. He has a job. They're the life of the party. Everybody's great. And it's like, so then the party's over. It's the next morning. Like, oh, I'm going to my job. And he's going off to his job. He walks outside, and he sees that everybody's normal. He sees that everybody's normal, and and then he goes like, he has this reaction, and his reaction is, he sees everybody, he's like, and runs back in the house, scared, and then, and this is like the thing I was talking about earlier when they were in Paris, like, why is he having that reaction? He didn't have that reaction. He didn't have that reaction when they were in Paris. So why have that reaction here? That doesn't make really much sense to me. And then he goes in the house and he says, he goes in the house, he's like, "Lily, get out! We got a problem! Car 54, where are you?" And it's like, that's a joke. It's kind of funny because Car 54, Where Are You was another show that the guy who worked on Munsters worked on. So that's why it's connected, and I'm like, okay, that works. If you know that, it's like, yeah, that works. That kind of works as a joke. You see, like they're sitting there, and then they're sitting there in the living room. Lily's reading a newspaper that says that the vampire that she went on the date with at the beginning of the movie that said, "I love my rats like they're my own children." The front story paper says that he got eaten by rats. I'm like, okay, knowing that's funny. That is funny. They set that up at the beginning of the movie, and it paid off at the end, where he got eaten by rats. He got eaten by his own rats. Okay, that works. That's funny. Like, so then they get up. They're like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "I don't know what's happening. Like, all the people out there got replaced by these horrible looking ghouls." They're like, "What?" So they go outside and they look at everybody and they're like, "Oh God, like all the people here are hideous. What's going on?" "Yeah, I told you, man. I don't know what's going on." And then Lester shows up. Oh yeah, they sold the castle. They sell the castle. They give Lester a cut of the money. He's like, no. He's like, no. He's like, "This is it? This is all the money I get?" He's like, yeah, that's all the money you get. Because you owe us a lot of money. So you don't, that's it. That's all you get. He's like, "All right, you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to win big." And then he leaves, and then you don't see him again until this point where it turns out he went to Vegas and he hit it big. He went to Vegas, he hit it big, and he's here to give Herman his cut of the money because Herman signed the contract, so he's entitled to some of the money. And then hands him a check. And he looks at it and he goes, "I'm rich, yeah!" And they're doing the whole throwing the money up into the air. They're rich, and it's like they do that, and then we get the opening credits from the original show with like Herman, with like the music, with the original theme song. Herman walking through the door, yeah, like Lily coming out doing her pose, like in Grandpa with the shovel walking out, like hitting and doing that. Like, yeah, that's great. I'm like, okay. I liked it I liked how we started off with, like, I kind of like how the movie progressed. Like, we started off with them meeting, them dating, becoming married, and then ending up like, and now we're at the show. We're not all the way into the show, but we're closer to the show by the end of the movie. I'm like, okay, I like that. I like this. I like you did it that way. That was pretty smart, but some of the jokes were hit and miss. The acting was all right. You know, all these actors did pretty good jobs. That was okay. But it's like, and I finished. I watched the movie, and I was like, I finished watching the movie, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do here? Okay, well, some of it worked. I'm not going to give it a thumbs down because there were some things in this movie that did work. It wasn't a complete failure. So I ended up giving it a thumbs up instead of a double thumbs up. If he does a sequel, please have someone help you with the writing of the jokes. Don't do this by yourself. That's what I would have to say to Rob Zombie. Don't do the sequel by yourself. Get some help. Like, you can be funny. We've seen that. But you are not funny enough to do an entire movie. You can do jokes here or there, but an entire movie of jokes, you can't do it. Please get help. Yeah. If they do a sequel, I'd watch it. I would watch it. Okay, so now in this review, I did not go through every single thing. There are some things I skipped for time. But yeah, if you saw this movie, you see this video, you think any of that is interesting, you want to go check it out. You can watch it on Netflix. It's there now. If you don't have Netflix for whatever reason, this movie did come out on Blu-ray the same day it came on Netflix. So I would suggest renting the Blu-ray. Don't buy the Blu-ray. I would suggest renting it unless you watch this movie and you really, really liked it. Then buy the Blu-ray. Because I was like surprised that it was already out on Blu-ray. Like, I'm like, wow, they don't really do that fast. They usually they premiere the movie on the streaming service first and then put that shit on Blu-ray. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, it's like, again, so it's like, It's kind of hit or miss. If they make a sequel, I'll watch it. Yeah, and that's my review, man. That's how I feel about this movie. It's an alright. It's not bad. It's not like it's not. It wasn't a complete failure. It was alright. You see this video? Give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Hit the subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. I am man of lawful. See ya.